Welcome to Promo Insiders, the ASI Media podcast that covers the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm Teresa Hagel, Executive Editor for Digital Content, and today I'm joined by Jason Emery, President of Supplier Toddy Gear, to talk about the challenges smaller suppliers face when it comes to sustainable sourcing and what sustainability means to customer relationships. Thanks for joining us, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
So I know Toddy Gear recently announced that you're using rPET to make a lot of your best-selling products. So can you tell me a little bit about how that came about and why you guys decided to make that change?
Absolutely. We're always looking for ways to be more efficient and cut down on waste in the factory. We do manufacturing here as opposed to a lot of suppliers that do decoration. So we have a lot of raw material that we work with, and we're always trying to keep or limit the amount of waste that we have with that material, not only for costing, but also for the environment as well. I would say probably early 2021, I attended a distributor-hosted event, one-on-one meetings, and we were doing these meetings, and it was towards the end of the event, and one of our customers, we were showing an item we had just brought out, which was one item that was made out of rPET material, and it was for just a microfiber cloth, which is mostly a commodity within this industry. I mean, you can get it in many, many different places. And after showing the regular one and the new one, our customer asked me a question. She said, Jason, is there a huge cost difference in this? And I said, well, there's a little bit of a cost difference. And she said, well, why don't you just change everything over? Because we make about 20, 25 items out of that material. Why don't you just change it over if it's kind of a negligible cost? And I said, well, it's not negligible. I went home thinking about that, and I really pondered on that question for probably 2 or 3 months. And it really hit me. It really kind of made me think, like, why are we not doing this? And I started looking at the rest of the industry and noticed that there wasn't a lot of people in our vertical that were working in the same capacity that I was thinking of and what the distributor brought to our attention. So I started working with our suppliers overseas that we buy the material from and started asking a lot of questions. And from there, it actually became pretty easy to do. There is a little bit of a cost difference, but as the way that we look at it, we were able to hold our costing the same and really take the largest volume of material that we use at Toddy Gear on a day-to-day basis and convert that material over to 100% rPET. And it was just a matter of eliminating the material we already had in stock, waiting to go through that, and then moving on to the new material. So it was one of those things that just kind of, Isaac Newton, it's like an apple falling from a tree.
Right, like her comment just sort of sparked that idea. And rPET, it's essentially like recycled polyester. I can never remember how to say that, the long word that it is, but it's a recycled material, right?
It is, and the factories that we deal with that make the yarns from the RPE are using specifically water bottles, is what they specialize in, and they make all of our fabrics come from different yarns, specifically polyester, and the factories that we're working with are using just recycled water bottles in order to make the beads.
Okay. And so you mentioned that you were able to keep the cost the same for these products. Was that an important consideration for you guys? Why did you decide to keep it the same?
It was an important consideration. I mean, we did lose a little bit of margin. I won't say we lost a lot. We did lose a little bit, but for us, it was like, okay, we're not just talking about one product here. We're talking about 20 to 25 items that we create. And if we make this move to do this, and we can go out to the industry and we can advertise that not only are they 100% rPET, not 90, not 80, not 75, but 100% rPET, and it's a commodity-driven item within this industry, and it's USA made, and we can hold it at the same cost, we felt as though volume-wise that our customers would have the tools necessary to move any existing business to us because we're good on price, we're good on USA made, and of course the environment as well.
Nice. So, it seems like sustainability has been kind of trending at large with lots of suppliers, but I think, when you're a smaller supplier, there maybe are some more challenges. So what are some of the hurdles smaller suppliers face when you're trying to make your businesses and your product lines more sustainable? And what do you do to overcome those?
That's a great question. I mean, everything, I think in our vertical for what we do, everything is a risk. Mistakes for a smaller company can have a lot more impact on our future. We learned that through COVID, right? Decisions that we made really uh, uh, turned out to be either the success or the failure of the company moving forward. So we take these things very, very seriously. So the big thing for us is really understanding that the supply chain to maintain this fabric once you made the changeover was going to be consistent, that it was going to work. Of course, we had to vet the factories, make sure everything was okay, and that we had all the certifications in place. So when we make, we're talking, again, we carry about 100, 105 different items at Toddy Gear. About 60 or 70% we make here in our factory. To make that changeover to about 25% of our line, we're really committed to doing it. So is it going to raise in price over the future? Can we keep our volume up? Will customers be okay? Um, do they just want the everyday commodity microfiber, or are they okay in taking a chance, and what does it mean to the marketplace? So for us, it was a big risk, but we felt devoted to it. And we felt good after talking to several customers about it that there would be a positive reaction.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, one thing you hear so much about is greenwashing, where companies are just kind of making these big claims and not really backing them up, or kind of inflating the sustainability of what they are offering. Um, so how can a smaller supplier, find reputable partners to work with? How do you, vet what you're doing and make sure the sourcing you're doing is actually sustainable?
It really comes down to relationships, I think, is the biggest thing. And what I like to call the secret sauce at Toddy Gear is where we get our material from. And Toddy Gear has been around almost 12 years now, and we've always used the exact same source, and that relationship goes far beyond business. And because of that, and especially because of the limitations right now of going overseas, we've really leaned on that and drastically reduced the amount of vendors that we work with. Um, so it's a lot of trust, and it's a lot of vetting the certifications, making sure that we understand those certifications, reaching out to third parties to make sure that we're knowledgeable, teach us about it, right? And then once we do that, make sure that we have everything we need before we make those claims.
Right, right. So, moving toward the distributors who are buying these products, how does offering sustainable products have an impact on customer relations for them?
Well, we're still seeing that right now. I will say on the relationship side, the announcement has been very well received. We have a lot of people that seem to, especially on social media, celebrating what we're doing, and it's definitely created a lot of noise in the industry. We believe
Hmm.
from what we've experienced. Um, there's a lot of companies out there that I mean, we're guilty of it as well. Before we came out with this, we had a wireless charger that had a bamboo case,
Hmm.
right? Well, how green, how eco-friendly is it just because it's got bamboo on it? What does it take to make that bamboo? And actually, again, you're putting a wireless charger in it. Well, that can't be very eco-friendly as it is. So, um, really kind of finding ways to do it that really are through and through for the company in its entirety are really, really big deal. And the customers seem to understand that because we're not just, with this step that we did, we've realized that there's a huge opportunity for us. So actually in January, all of our cooling wrap material, which is all of our cooling cloths and neck gaiters and everything, is all being transferred over to 100% RPT as well. That's a different kind of material that encompasses another 15% of our volume. And then once we exhaust the remainder of our material, which is all the stuff that we make our famous cloths, the original Toddy cloth and the wedges from, we hope that will be exhausted by around June, and we'll be switching that over, which means, with exception of one material, um, 90% of what we will by this time next year, our goal is 90% of what we manufacture here in Illinois will be made out of 100% RPET. So that's a real commitment on our side, and it takes time to get there. So as we tell that story, we're getting a fantastic reaction from it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I imagine, distributors when they're going to their own customers like to be able to tell that story, that this is a sustainable product and that they're going to be able to get more and different products from you guys that are also, from RPET.
Absolutely. And I think there's a big difference between releasing products that are eco-friendly and really having a mission as an organization. That it's just not something that we're going to carry inventory of and carry it with everything else that we do. We're actually making a difference to the everyday business that we drive.
Right, right. Right, because there's been a lot of people that have maybe like an eco-friendly line that has one or two things, but it's not really what their, main focus is. It's just sort of like, oh, this is another trend to kind of chase after.
Yeah, and I think going back to the meeting that happened early in 2021, that was kind of the light bulb that went off. Like, wow, as Toddy Gear, because we manufacture so many products from a few raw materials, we really have the ability to make that change, but we have to commit to it.
Right, right. So, I mean, in the past year or so, it seems that more and more suppliers are putting that emphasis on sustainability. Do you think that this is going to continue into the new year? And what predictions do you have for how sustainability is going to be treated in promo, over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I don't think it's going away. I think it's going to increase. And I think that suppliers and distributors as well that are working with those suppliers that don't change or have that mission in place or have those goals in mind, I think they're going to feel it after a while. They're going to be pressured to do so. Cost is definitely a thing that as a supplier we have to work on with our partners to try to drive that down. That has always been a barrier. I remember the bamboo push that happened probably in the early 2000s that kind of came and went, if you will. And price was really a barrier for that. So I think it's going to stick around. I'm seeing a lot of the blue chip companies are already on board with it, and I'm starting to see some of the mid-size companies, the end users out there, that are really starting to talk about it because it's become a part of our everyday life.
Right, right. So even if you are a distributor and you don't necessarily care about it or think about it yourself, you may be forced to because that's what your clients want.
Yeah, one of the things one of my mentors in the past told me years and years ago. He said, "If you don't evolve, you cease to exist." And I truly believe that this is part of the evolution.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was so nice talking with you today, Jason. Thank you so much. And again, this was Promo Insiders with ASI Media. Thanks.
Thank you so much.